When I tell people that I'm a yoga instructor, I often hear this comment, "Oh, but I cannot do yoga, I'm not flexible enough." And I'm like, you should definitely do yoga if you're not flexible. Actually, that's one of the main reasons why I started doing yoga. I was doing a lot of strength training and I felt like I was walking like a robot, and I thought, let's have a look at all of that yoga thing. What's that? So this is just a short kind of tutorial, kind of a class that's for you if you're certainly not flexible. Now, most people, when they say they're not flexible, there's a few areas that really hits home. That's why they're not flexible. One, hamstrings, the back. Typically, or not typically, hamstrings goes from underneath the knee joint and just sits firmly here underneath the hip. So the issue there with this being tight is that you cannot reach here. You're like, here you're stuck. This just won't give anymore. So this is one major area. So, oh, I can't reach the floor. I'm not flexible. I cannot do yoga. Now, another thing is a lot of people have back issues, back pain, often lower back pain, lumbar back pain here. This can be due to actually hamstrings being too short or tight. And that kind of influence how the hip positions itself, and that influences the back. But also the back in itself can, of course, be a little bit stiff and needs to move and become a little bit more flexible. The third area, I would say, is the shoulders. Either they are hypermobile like this, that's not the issue we talk about today, or they're just stiff so you can't, reach the arms up, or, can't get your hands behind you or something like that. So today I want to show you some really cool things you can do with blocks and straps. You don't have to go out and spend a lot of money on this stuff. You can use a scarf or blanket or something like that, belt. You need to be a little bit long though, so don't go with it too short, then it won't work as well. So that is a great thing. And then our blocks are amazing. Again, you can buy them pretty cheap. Those are a little bit more solid, are often better than those that are really soft. So 2 of them, if you want to really get more flexible. To get more flexible, going all in and just stretching for 30 minutes, 1 week or 1 day a week, doesn't make that much of a difference. It's better than nothing. But if you really want more flexibility, you have to do it, science says, 5 times a week, 1 minute per area. So it's actually not a lot. And I'm going to show you some of those stretches you can do for 1 minute, maybe 5 days a week. And you can do a 7-10 minutes program. Doesn't have to be long. So, of course, warming up the body is always a great thing. So I'm not going to do that a whole lot. I'll show you what you can do with sun salutations if you're not that flexible and just, need to warm up the body and, all of that. So you can stand at the top end of the mat. Make sure you bend your knees a little bit. Reach your arms up, and you don't have to go like all the way, just up. And then soften your knees and folding forward. Now you probably can't reach the floor, and that's fine. Maybe hands on your legs, your thighs, or using the blocks, the tall part here of the blocks, and just folding down here. Now it's important you let go of your neck. Now the question is, how do we get down into plank pose? You bend your knees even more, okay? This might come in as an issue for your Achilles here, but I think most of us can kind of get our way down here into our knees and then move our legs further back, either staying on your knees or coming up on your toes, finding our way into a version of plank pose. Taking the pointy part of the elbows back and come down on the mat. From here, you lift up the chest and try to use your strength. Don't push through the hands. Use the spine muscles, I will call them, to lift up. Tuck your toes under, like mine are here, so you're able to stay in plank pose. Stay on your knees as you lift, now using your arms, coming up. And then down dog is also a really tough one if your hamstrings are tight. But just take a look. Lifting up And you might walk your feet a little bit closer in. Now this down dog, look at my knees. They're quite bended. This might be your down dog. And that's great. I'd rather have you bend your knees quite a lot than doing this one, trying to stretch the legs and then your back look like this, rounded. See a lot of people doing this. We want to flatten the back. So this tailbone, if you feel like you have a tail here, reaching up, like moving the pelvis up and back and then bending the knees. Letting your heels sink as low as they can, stretching the Achilles, the back part of your calves. And then as you make your way to the top end of the mat, you bend your knees further, walking, and at some point, just gonna let go of the floor, folding forward. From there, bending the knees, coming into your high mountain. Let's do that one more time. Arms up. Fold forward. I'm going to do it without blocks. Coming down on your knees, however you can do it. Hands on the mat, walking my knees further back to get the core engaged. Elbows down, trying to keep my spine straight. If I can't, I might go like this, and then I kind of let go. All right, if that's where you are, perfectly fine. Using the back, lifting up. Maybe staying here for a breath. Tucking the toes under. Now using your strength in your arms. Reach up. Adjust your stance so you have hip width in between those feet. That's approximately 2 fist distance. Bending the knees, lifting the tailbone away from your navel. Heels low. Bending the arms maybe quite a bit. And if you're not used to yoga, this is a really hard pose, okay? So if you notice that, you are doing it right. Okay, and come to the top end of the mat. Moving into mountain pose. Mountain pose is standing. So hopefully our bodies are just a little bit warm now. To start with the top of the shoulders, one really cool stretch with the strap here is taking the strap behind you. And the wider you go, the easier it will be, or, well, everything within a boundary, of course. You can let your thumbs point towards each other, and you can even do your pinky fingers. So you might just choose what works for you. Bending your knees, holding a strap. You can always keep it a little bit tight to begin with, and then you can always change the distance. Let your arms fold back behind your head and make sure you soften the knees. We're not focusing on the hamstrings, so just bend the knees and let your arms reach back. Now, I'm used to doing this, so maybe your arms are just here and you feel something already. Fine. Stay there for a bit. And as we stretch, and it might hurt a little bit, maybe just go to 60 or 80% of your maximum stretch capacity. Don't overdo this, okay? So staying here, it might be a little bit long with your head down for 1 minute, but anyway, we're almost there. And we can even do another variation of it. Coming up, if you can't have your head down that much, I'm gonna change the position of my hands. Squeezing your shoulder blades and moving back a little bit, looking up. This is stretching the front. This one you would do instead of what you sometimes see, where people fold their hands and just go for that one, okay? So this is your option. Make sure you don't put all of your weight on your heels. I want you to soften your knees, trying to think of the pelvis staying still, and this upper part of the spine here from the navel and up, moving a little bit back, all right? Just standing on your heels, leaning back like a straight line doesn't stretch anything. And let go. So that's one version of it. Let's come down on the mat, seated. These straps can be used really, really well when you sit and stretch your hamstrings. So you can take the strap around your right foot, for example. Hip, knee, foot there aligned with the long end of the mat, so you're not out to the side or anything like that. And just holding it. And then moving yourself more to the front. So this is a really great stretch. Please avoid using your strength here. When it hurts in a stretch, and you feel like your muscles are going, because when it hurts, I kind of, get tense. But I'm not going to go that far in my stretch. I'm just going to feel it, good pain. And then noticing if I can relax. Always use your hand to kind of notice what's going on. And then sit here. I'm going to show you a standing version of some of this in a moment. As I said before, 1 minute per muscle group. So this is the first time we're into the hamstrings and actually calves and Achilles as well. So we don't have to stay here for 1 minute because we're going to get back to it again. So I'm going to switch and even the sides out, leaning forward. Another small detail is when I lean forward, don't move your spine back. You see the difference like this? And then like this. Another really important thing that might be helpful as you sit here, because if you're really tight, this is even impossible. Sitting on a blanket or folding your mat here a few times, and then place yourself on that folded part is helpful to a lot of people. Just elevating a hip a little bit more. The strap is great when you can lean a little bit forward. The strap is instead of just grasping the foot or the foot with your hands. So different opportunities there. Reaching down, elevating a hip, depending on your condition. Okay. Now a really good one for the inside of the thigh is I would call the butterfly pose. I'm just going to stay here because I'm elevated, so I'm going to show you. So the sole of the feet together, let your knees come out to the side. Again, avoid being like this. I'd rather have the spine tall and then the feet further away. Relaxing the thighs. And if you feel really different left to right side, that's just how your body is. You might be built differently from left to right side. But just notice, because it's nice to know. Because it might explain. If you have knee injuries on your right side, your hip flexors, your hamstrings on your right side might be way different, more tight, more whatever, sore than the other side. So everything's connected. And let's go. Tabletop is another wonderful pose. We don't need as such any straps or things. Blocks. It's always nice. Not at all necessary for most people, but if there's any wrist issues, it might be nice. This is awesome. Just to move the spine. It's called CatCow. Gentle movements for, just spine mobility. You can close your eyes and follow your breath if you like. So you inhale as you open up, let your navel sink down. And exhale as you take your chin towards your chest, shorten the distance between the hip and the nose. Great. Now you can let your blocks stay here if you happen to have them there. Come up on your feet. And actually you might want to take them on the highest position. Then take your right leg and step the foot in between, your right foot in between the blocks. The left here is behind you, and how far you want to go, your legs will tell you. Your hip bones here are somewhat aligned with the short end of the mat. Now, this means that I don't have this hip moved back here. I'm moving it forward. So it's pyramid pose, and this is another of those amazing stretches for the back. So lean forward. So your pyramid pose might be here, but often I see people are able to reach down on these blocks. Simply staying here, stretching the back of the front leg and maybe even the back of the back leg, hamstrings and calves. Your hip, if right leg is in front, easily moves out to your right side. So you can stay and maybe just take a look at the screen. Maybe you're able to see it when I do it like this. So now my hip, I would say, is closed. You can see where it's placed. And when my hip moves out to the side, you'll see my hip moving out there. This makes the stretch a little bit more easy for some of us if we move the hip out there. So trying to move it back and placing the hip joints where the feet are, so it's not, out to the side. All right, let's change it. So switch legs. And if it feels really sore, please just shake it out. I know yoga often is, doing it slowly and mindful and all that. And then when we shake things out, it kind of interrupts it all. But if it feels good, I would just do it. If that's what your body needs, shake it out. Awesome. Now as we come down and sit on the mat for just a shoulder stretch and then the last hamstring things, I want to show you that being seated on blocks are awesome if your hips are really tight. So if you have those, and bring them to a class or to my YouTube channel, just sit on them. Maybe you want to choose two on top of each other. Now I put them beside each other, but you choose. It's so helpful for hips that are tight. So you don't sit on the floor. See a lot of people when they're tight trying to sit like this. Let me show you on the side. This is really not comfortable. But if you sit somewhat like this, coming up on those blocks can help you get the knees more down and your spine more elevated. So stretch for the shoulders. You can take your right elbow and just move it in here and push your left, or your right in this case, elbow to your chest. This is instead of maybe doing what some people do, the eagle arms pose. That's the one we do sometimes in balanced postures. But this one, instead of that, holding here, sitting tall. Of course, you don't want our shoulders up there. And it doesn't really make it a deeper stretch if you move your torso around here, okay? So you should just stay with your shoulders over your hip. And let's change. All right. Last small detail. come down on your back, last hamstring stretch. So I'm trying to count how many times we've been involved in this now. So we've done it actually in down dog. I forgot that before. That's also a hamstring stretch. And then we did seated stretch. We did the pyramid, and now this one. So we have been through this back leg quite a lot now, even more than 1 minute. Okay? So you can take a strap, and this is basically the same. You can see my body is almost positioned the same here as here if I bent this other leg, okay? So it's basically the same. Now, this other leg, make sure it's just bended. And maybe this leg is bended as well. But when you hold it here, you might think, oh, okay, I can stretch it a little bit, and it might not even go as far as this. This is great. So I'm not going to stay here for a long time because I want to show you a great stretch also. So this is for the lower back. I encourage you to really bend the knee. And then cross, if you have right leg, cross it over up into spinal twist. Coming all the way onto your side. And maybe you use your blocks. Maybe one block. Actually, I'm going to change sides so you can see what's going on. Maybe your block. One block under the knee joint as you come onto the side here. To help you relax in this twist. One or the other. Lots of options here. The other arm, we want to reach out, and you can even use a block underneath this arm as well to make it relax. So two things are happening here. You stretch your spine, your gluteus over the hip, and your shoulder moving the other direction than your knee. And let go. Let's switch legs. So before you took the strap on right leg, let's get it over left. Pull it in. As before, notice how it feels. If your leg starts to like shake like this, you're doing it too much. We don't want that. So just again, think not doing my max, but doing my 70, maybe 80%. That's it. And as before, you again cross over using blocks, if you like, coming onto the side for this spinal twist. I'm going the same direction because I changed before. And then before I finish this class, I just want to say and emphasize that flexibility, being able to reach the floor as you lean forward with your hands or something like that, may never happen to you, and it may never be something you need to. Flexibility and strength goes hand in hand. So if your immobility is a hindrance to what you do, if you have to pick up some things, but you can't do it, or you feel, you're hurting because of some limitations. Of course, that's why you do yoga, because it's not good for your body to be that tight. But don't think you have to be like the pictures on if you Google yoga. Whoa, don't go there, okay? That's not the goal. At least it's not for me, and it's not really that healthy either to be super flexible. But that's a whole other story. I am done for now. So, as always, thank you for joining this. And I hope if you do this often, or just choose to do it, put on a song and grab your things and do two of those stretches. And then hopefully you'll see a difference. And remember, flexibility in mind, body, and soul, and strength in mind, body, and soul is often where health and good mood is found. Have an awesome and blessed day. Thank you for joining me. Before you close the laptop, thank you so much for helping me reach out with CrossYoga by you subscribing, liking, leaving a comment. Every single person counts here. So thank you so much for taking the time to help me offer you free yoga also in the future.